Greetings, everyone. My name is Stephen Neely. This is the virtual Dalcroze meetup. It is meetup number 80. We've done this 80 times as of tonight, and it's crazy. It's been little more than 4 years. It's been 4.5 years, and we've gotten 80 of these little meetups in, and people keep showing up, which is crazy. This is the first one of the new year. So happy New Year, happy 2025 to everybody. And thanks for being here. We're so thrilled to keep the conversation going and to keep meeting new friends and doing good work together. So if I see a couple new faces in the room and some old friends. The basic format is we always start with just getting to know each other just for 2 minutes. So what is going to happen is I'm going to throw you all into a breakout room if I can find the button, and you have no more than 2 minutes to do the following two things. You need to tell, we normally say our name, where we are from, like where we're located, and who do we teach. And you can either be, this is or who I teach actively now, or who I used to teach, or who I'm gonna teach, or I'm not sure, but I like, tell us something about yourself. But the easy one is your name, where you located, who do you teach. You have 2 minutes, and then I'm gonna pull you all back. Ready, set, go. All right. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you probably didn't have enough chance to meet everybody deeply, but enough to be curious about who these people are and to think, oh, I could probably hang out with some of them. Before we go any further, I want to introduce my co-host and co-founder of the BDM, Veronica Bileski. Veronica is in Boston, and I'm in Pittsburgh, and we're just really excited to see everybody. Veronica, do you want to lead with some of these announcements?
Yes, I also just want to say it's really nice to see you all. I've seen your names floating around on the emails and newsletters, and I know we email with some of you quite a bit, but it's like really nice to see your faces. So thanks for coming. Um, so we have a whole new kind of season of events coming up from January through June of 2025 is what we've figured out and are sharing with all of you. So if you like looking at it at a Google Doc, it's there in the Google Doc that's linked in the agenda. You can also go to the Google Calendar that is linked on our website, and that's really convenient because it will convert it to your time zone. So it says, want to add this to your Google Calendar, click this link, and you can click that, and then it'll do all the conversions so you don't have to be thinking about what time is that meeting if we don't list your time zone. We got 3 master classes and 3 more short courses in our Dalcroze Essentials short courses series. So maybe Stephen, you can talk about Anne Gabrielle's that's coming up in 2 weeks, and then a little bit about yours, and then all the other ones you guys can come and check out on our website, and we'll tell you about them closer to the date.
Yeah, so this new season, which is starting now and takes us into May, we have 6 events, 3 short courses, 3 master classes. The next one is in 2 weeks, and it's Anne Gabrielle Chateau, who's a Dalcroze diplôme, which means, a fancy, one of the world-class Dalcroze teachers who's centered in France. She spends some of her time in Switzerland, and I think her main home base is in France. And we're just really excited to feature her here through the VDM. She'll be doing a master class. Her topic is going to be binary ternary, which is sort of a regular one of the regular themes that a lot of our work seems to bump into. But I think there's a good chance that a lot of our VDM community has never met Anne Gabrielle. And so her English is great, her musicianship is world class, and I strongly encourage everybody to get a chance to see her. One of the big points of one of the great advantages of the VDM is that we have a chance to meet all these teachers. This is about the 40th, somewhere we're right around number 40 40th masterclass, where you didn't have to buy a plane ticket to go and get to just see the flavor of this next teacher. And so just being in the room with them at all, I learned something every time. One of the best things about being one of the hosts is just that I get to go to everything, and I'm telling you, it has been so rewarding. just to meet everyone. So I encourage everybody to sign up and try to get to all the master classes. But the next one is Anne Gabrielle Chateau from France. And then right after that, Anthony Molinaro and I are together jointly offering a short course, which means in this case 3 sessions. I think there are 3 Wednesday evenings on the East Coast of the States is when we'll be meeting, and for 80 minutes each. And Anthony and I just wrote a book. It's called Make It Music: Dalcroze Strategies for Every Classroom, and we're going to be walking everybody through the whole thing. We're going to talk to you about what the book part was about, and it comes with these 4 card decks that help you deal yourself Dalcroze inspired lessons. And so we are going to walk everybody through the game and help you kind of play with the cards, and we're going to all put it to the test and see how it works. We've been working on it for more than a year now. It's actually being published today. The first actual printed copies are supposed to show up at my house on Thursday, and I'm doing an in-service with the Pittsburgh Public Schools, all the music teachers on Friday. So fingers crossed that the books actually show up. And so if you want to get you, of course, we hope everybody will buy the book, but if you want to be introduced to the book by the authors and think about how is it that even with no Dalcroze experience, could you just get a toe in to some of the mindset of the Dalcroze teacher and of Dalcroze lesson planning? This is a great resource. And for people who have a long history with Dalcroze materials and with Dalcroze interactions, I think that those people will find it a really fun game and challenge where a lot of it just is very intuitive and makes sense. That's the short course. And then there are 4 more things offered after that. Adriana Alsch, our dear friend in Boston, Ruth Alperson. Adriana's doing a master class. Ruth Alperson, one of the most famous American diploms teachers, is doing a short course around young children's Eurythmics classes. Fumiko Honda Bauer is centered in the New York area, and she's doing a master class that I believe is on the very small children.
Yeah, it's like this early childhood, like maybe 1 to 3 with caregivers, that
Yep,
kind of crowd.
that kind of thing. So we're really excited to feature Fumiko. And then the last short course of the season, that is of the spring, will be with Francoise Lombard, who is one of our dear colleagues in Canada. She's in the uh, I want to say she's in the Toronto area, and she's just fabulous in every way, and specializes a lot in improvisation and in solfege, and she also is just do all the things. So we hope everybody will sign up and come to come to everything. Um, but the next one is Anne Gabrielle, and we're really hoping to see everybody there. So we've got some new people are jumping in. We're posting for you the agenda. Just
Yeah, so I can just go ahead and introduce the presenters. So Liam is here and is going to share with us a 5-minute presentation. And then Sean, if you'd like to jump in after that with anything that strikes you, that would be great. And then Stephen, if you want to kind of offer some prompts for creativity with kids, or actually with all students, right? And then after that, we'll have a discussion and kind of all get to share our thoughts. So I will give you a 1-minute warning um, in your 5-minute time. And please don't feel too stressed because you'll have time more to share a little bit later. So, Liam, it's all yours.
Awesome. Hello, everyone. My name is Liam Neely. I am one of the prep school teachers at Carnegie Mellon University, and I teach a class called Creative Expression. The Creative Expression class I teach with 3 other people. It's me, Nick Vanili, Marco Cardenas, and Brandon Williams. And we come from all different ends of the music program at CMU. And the main premise of the class is to have the students create the music. We're pretty much there just to kind of help them along the way. But for the most part, we give them like very small prompts, and then we say, okay, now what are some ways we can approach this? What are ways that we can evoke these feelings and do all these types of things? So we do a lot of things with this last semester, we did a whole lot of things with John Cage works. And then like what is music? How can we feel all these things? Um, and so there's all of those things. And we worked with graphic scores and ways we could think about composition. And I can share my screen and I can show a couple of pictures. So, for example, we have, I'm not sure if everyone can see this. This is a graphic score that we made where we pretty much all we said was we're going to use these four shapes where I think we had triangles, rectangles, circles, and I'm not sure what else we had on there, but we had something. And we had different types of scissors where you can cut them out and you can cut them different colors, make them different sizes. And then we would put them on the board. And then we would say, okay, now what does this all mean? And then they would decide, oh, triangles mean that you're playing this instrument. And so we had a bunch of instruments laid out in the room. And they're all instruments that none of them know how to play because they're all around like 5 to 7 years old, at least the class that I teach. And so they all come up with it. So they're like, oh, the triangle's the piano. And so every single time we read through it, every triangle is some piano. And whenever we were running through this, we had it going as like we had a stick going by that would follow each thing. And once we hit the shape, then that would cue the sound. And so each thing meant another thing. High was high notes, low was low notes. The way it was cut out was like the type of articulation. Colors were dynamics, I think. And so it was just all the things. It was like it's their idea, and it's all up to them. So that was one big thing we did. The whole premise of the semester was by the end of it, it was making games. And so we created this, we had them create these fun games. Theirs was called Sound Soup, which is based off this game that they play in their school called Crab Soup, which I have no clue how Crab Soup is actually supposed to be played. But Sound Soup was a whole thing where you run around these four mallet instruments, and there are people in the middle, and you're trying to match rhythms. And it's just this whole fun game between people in the middle and people on the outside. And so that's
1
enough.
minute, Liam.
1 minute. Okay, I'll get to the last thing. The last thing I'll talk about is we did this whole thing where in my degree, I'm an instrument builder. I build these instruments called singing tennis balls. And they are instruments that I gave to them that are fully improvisational. And I'm just going to play the video. I'm not sure if anyone can hear anything.
You're gonna need to share your sound. So
Okay, I'll
out
unshare.
and step back
Yeah.
in. Liam, tell them your major and what is that big thing we just
I am an electronic music major. And this instrument is, it can be programmed to be any sound based off of movement. So you throw it and it will sing. So it's called the singing tennis ball. And I made them a bunch of different sizes. And I know I'm running out of time, so we had them. Can you hear now? I like that. And so they're just these giant instruments that are like the same weight as all the students. And it's a one-to-one conversion between movement and like actual physical sound. And so we had them pick the sound of the instrument and we had them pick the movements. And so we had them all do like these different types of movements. I'm not sure what this one is. But we were rolling it. We had a group that was kicking it. I asked them what sound they wanted, like what sound will the ball make? And they all said thunder. And so I had 15 seconds to make a thunder sound for them to play around with. But that is the gist of the creative expression class. I think I'm probably out of time.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well done. Sean, would you like to add some things?
Sure. Let's use my 5 minutes just doing. I'm going to actually demonstrate writing a song. But I need suggestions for you. So very quickly, what should the song be about?
butterfly.
Birds.
There you go.
Butterfly,
Cold winter.
birds. What else? The cold winter. Okay, so we put those up on the board, and I'm going to say cold winter. That's something that appeals to me. So I'm doing a little bit of choosing. All right, cold winter. Now let's do some words that we think of when we're cold winter. Just everybody shout them out.
Snow,
Snow,
Ice,
Freezing.
ice,
Cloudy.
cloudy,
cold toes,
cold.
Pain on my face.
Slipping.
What was the last one?
slippery.
Slipping.
Slipping. Oh, okay. So again, I'm going to pick. Let's say I wrote them all down, but I'm going to pick a few that sound good to me, and I like slipping. So let's play with slipping. I say so. Let's first of all, how does everybody say it to yourself? Slipping, sliding, slippity slip. You know, we jumble some words up on the board. Slippeting. Let's say we say slipping, sliding, slippity slip. I'm doing in 4 minutes what normally takes 20 minutes. But let's say we've got slipping, sliding, slippity slip. I just fell down. What a trip. I'm forcing that 20 minutes, right? So there we have it. Now we're going to figure out what are the rhythms. So let's clap it, everybody. Slipping, sliding, slippity slip. I just fell down. What a trip. Okay, so then we're starting to get notation. We do it a few times. Is there another way to do it? Slipping, sliding, slippity slip. I just fell down. Whoops, what a trip. You know, so we're just saying the words over again until we come up with a rhythm that we like. We might at this point, depending upon the age, say this is 6/8 or this is 4/4, or we might not. You know, sooner or later we will notate it in some sensible way. If notation is a fancy thing, I won't bring it up yet. All right, but so we've got this. Everybody say the words again. Slipping. Let's say we like it in 6/8. Okay, slipping, sliding, slippity slip. I just fell down. Whoops! What a trip. Okay, and now we want to pitch it, and there are a lot of ways to get pitching. I could just say, Sarah, how would you like to pitch slipping, sliding, slippity slip? Just make something up.
Slipping, sliding, slippity slip.
Okay, everybody try it. Slipping, sliding, slippity slip, and we have a few people sing it. So, and that gives you a chance to get a little more precise in your rhythms, because usually when we're improvising, we're just making stuff up. But by the third time somebody sung it, we have pitches, and we slipping, sliding, slippity slip. So we're notating it in our heads as we go along. So we got slipping, sliding, slippity slip. What was the next part? I've forgotten. I just fell down. Whoops, what a trip. Okay, Maria, could you just give us tunes for that?
Let's see here. I fell down. Whoops, what a trip.
All right, everybody try it. I fell down. Whoops, what a trip. And again, so that was, you know, at first we're just finding contours, really. And then we're getting a little more and more precise with the notes. This is basically, we've created a song. And in 20 minutes, once we notate it, and then that's a lesson right there in the notation, as much as they can handle. So if I'm writing this with 4-year-olds, I'm just going to go home and write it and give it to them. But their parents maybe can read it. And then we have this song, which then the next week we bring out, we remember it. This is the song we wrote. It's, I think probably my 4 minutes are up. And
yeah, you got 1 minute warning. You can talk.
I don't think I'm even going to need it. That's
Okay.
the way it
Lovely.
works out. And then, you know, it's something we've done together, and it was fun.
wonderful. Wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Great
much.
job compressing your 20 minutes into 4.
Nailed it.
Truly impressive.
Nailed it. Sean is a longtime teacher. Are you still centered in New York City, Sean?
Mm-hmm.
He's been a part of the Dalcroze New York and Dalcroze National for a very long time. And we're just really thrilled that you came in, even just to share a little bit with us, Sean. I thank you so much for staying up a little late and
Yeah, I am sort of falling asleep.
I've been up, I can't even tell you. It's late for us on the East Coast, but we're really happy to have such a nice crowd. I put my name on the agenda because we weren't quite sure if we were going to have all of our presenters. Rather than me sort of taking a whole 5, I'll just kind of foreground what we thought the evening might be about, which was just there's a common practice in a lot of whether you call it a general music classroom or even in a eurythmic classroom, truly. But there's a common practice to like I've come up with a bunch of ideas, and now I'm going to show those ideas to the students, and then they will do the ideas that I brought to them. And so I, the all-knowing, teacher, I, the pedagogue who has lots of training and can play an instrument or multiple, I'm going to impart my knowledge on all of you. And it's just, I mean, we all know that model. It's the most common model. What we were really excited about tonight, especially with both of these, and Claire, I'm looking at you as well as doing something also kind of similar. That in these examples, we're just being reminded that it doesn't always have to be that direction. Everything doesn't have to come from the teacher imparted on the student. And in fact, in what I think of as the richest kind of Dalcroze setting, it's always co-created. I still show up with a lesson plan. I've got some opinions. I maybe have a direction that I'm headed, but I'm always looking for inspiration and ideas and hopefully challenge and risk and creativity from the students in my room. And in both of these examples, what Liam and Sean are both sharing, it's even more so. It is no, the whole premise of what we're going to get into is I don't know the answer. You know the answer, and you don't even necessarily know you know the answer, but I know you know the answer. So we're going to pull it the complete opposite direction. So hold on one second. Sorry. All right, I'm back. So we have Liam's class, I'm not sure that everybody got all the background. Liam, you're working specifically with 5 to 7 year olds, is that right? And then there are two other iterations of that same class that are middle school and high school that are taught by just Liam's colleagues. Sean, what is the ranges that you're working with?
Well, right now, I'm just doing one little third grade class, but that exercise is something I've done with adults and with 4-year-olds, so really all ages.
Very nice. So I think actually we have a little bit of time. I'm gonna put just my friend Claire is here, and Claire, I want to put you on the spot just for a minute, because and actually as soon as Veronica hears what you're gonna say, she's gonna be like, we're gonna have to have Claire back and give her more than 4 minutes. But This is Claire Gunsbury, who did graduate work at Carnegie Mellon. I don't know, when did you graduate? 2 years ago, something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And we're one of Claire's sort of big things has become what's called the Lullaby Project. And can you just tell us what is the Lullaby Project?
Yeah, for sure. So Lullaby Project was founded in New York City, actually, through Carnegie Hall. And I started a chapter here in Pittsburgh. But basically, we pair professional musicians with expecting parents. And these can be parents in all sorts of settings. Sometimes they're incarcerated parents. Sometimes we work with women who've experienced birth trauma, but we do collaborative songwriting. And really, the purpose is to empower the parents and to create a space where they can really give voice to their stories in a musical way, and help them bond with their child. So actually, yeah, I wasn't expecting to be so much overlap between these two presenters. But yeah, Sean, your kind of very brief model is a lot of what we do in Lullaby Project, is just kind of start from nothing and go with the inspiration that's in the room. And yeah, it's very generative and I think it flips the script on a lot of how we normally learn and teach music. But yeah.
I want to open the floor here for everybody else to ask questions and we can get into a conversation. One of the things though that I think is obvious and I think it has to be in Claire's case as well, but definitely was displayed here with Sean and Liam, was this belief, this faith that, well, of course you can do that. Sean called out a name and said, just sing for me a little thing. And I don't know if he knew the names of the people that he called out, like if he knows those people or not, but he definitely worded it like, well, of course you're just going to sing for me. I'm not acknowledging your anxiety or your hesitancy or your maybe fear of doing it. Of course you're just going to do it. And Liam working with the kids doing avant-garde graphic scores inspired by John Cage, is something that if you just describe that to a lot of average music ed programs, I'm not sure that they all would have a space in their mind for that. And yet they launched into it, and the kids don't know any different. They're just like, I guess I'm supposed to be able to do this. And then they all of a sudden are doing it. And so I think there's maybe to me a sort of a starting point when we're trying to pull inspiration from the students is just the belief that they can. And it's a pretty powerful kind of way of interacting with each other. So I think I've spoken enough, at least for the first little round here. Of any of our friends, which can be the presenters or anybody else in the room, you have questions or things? Sarah, welcome. Where are you at? Where are you located, Sarah?
Hi, I'm from Toronto. I'm so glad, Stephen, that
Right.
I met you in Ottawa,
Yes, yes, yes.
and that's how I got looped into this. So thank you for doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really glad to be here. I had a really quick question for Liam, and then also just a little like when I was teaching kindergarten music, I just wanted to add to something that Sean was kind of doing too, and it made me think of this. But with Liam, have you ever played with the Playtronica products?
I have no, never heard of it.
That's awesome because it's just like an electric board with I can put a link up later with little wires, and then
Oh, I think I do. Is this the thing that
yeah,
looks like fruits?
then you could touch things,
Yeah,
anything that conducts the electricity, right?
yeah, I've
And
worked with them.
then yeah, so it's like I'll have students hold like an eggplant, and then I'll just say like, what sound does this make? And then I'll get them to vocalize a thing and then record it.
Mhm,
And then so the next time then a kid touches an eggplant, it's gonna make that sound that the first kid made.
mhm,
And then you could loop that and then add a lemon and add a thing. But
mhm.
it's fun. But and then like with Sean, I really liked your like just like create together, like genuinely creating together. And it made me think of like kindergarten stories because kindergarten kids are so funny in their like things, right? So like they could start from just like a Lego building block. It looks like a blob, and then you say like, "What is this? Give me a beginning, middle, and end, and what does that sound like?" And they can create a whole
Mhm.
musical idea or a song just based on that. But it's it. I'm not teaching kindergarten right now. I'm not doing anything Dalcrozian in my work, so I'm missing it so much. But thank you.
Thank you for that. The just as Sarah's describing all of that, for anybody who's kind of new to these routines, one of the, I don't know if it might be kind of gross to call it a formula, but one of the sort of a standard kind of interaction, formula is not quite right, but one of a multitude of standard interactions that I think of when I think of doing Dalcroze work with anybody really, can in my world gets boiled down to who's got a thing, let's do the thing, let me accompany the thing, let's all do the thing. And so, and there's lots of versions of that. So it can be like, who's got a movement? And then all of a sudden the kid's like, well, I got a wiggle. And so we're like, awesome, let's all wiggle. And then we all wiggle. And then I go to the piano or somebody goes to find some way to add sound to it. So I'll accompany it. And then all of a sudden we know the wiggle song that in this case maybe I invented. And now we all do it with the music. And then maybe we go to another child and then we go back and we remember the wiggle music and then we go back and forth and back and forth. And what's going on there, which is also what's going on in all of these examples, is that there's creativity from the student, doesn't have to be a little kid, but there's creativity that's been offered. It's a risk, certainly to adults, to be creative. And then the person in charge, the person with all the power, validates it. Like that, it's never a, oh, I don't know, that wasn't such a good wiggle. I mean, you should see me wiggle. I'm the person with the big degrees. It's never ever that. It's always, wow, look at that wiggle. Okay, I accept the challenge as the teacher to try to do something with your wiggle. I'm going to validate your wiggle and actually show you that it's music. And then we find the music that is the thing, and then we use that to spin out. And so what I'm hearing in all right now, I think we kind of have four little examples of things that have been shared. All of them are show me something, let me validate the something, tell you how good it is, and now let's stretch it, let's take it somewhere else. Sean?
I'd like to just add something. I liked the exercise you did, Liam, and I've done similar things like that with the score, and I just want to add the element of reflection on it. And I think that's particularly good exercise for reflection because if you have this visual score, You can perform it, you can record it, and then you can have people listen to it and say, how well did you like that work? Is there anything that could have made it better? I mean, first of all, what I like is you can give different people the chance to be the conductor and point around. You said, you were leading, and so everyone can have a chance to be the conductor. But if you have older kids, I like giving them the chance to listen to it and say, how could this be better? Do we like that at the piano? Do we want to try again the piano? And building that element of, it doesn't work quite so well with a song because you basically come up with the song and then afterwards you either like it or you don't. But I think the score leaves a lot of room for further reflection exercises, which we don't really put in our lessons as often as we should, I think. Chance to listen it and then think, how would I change it? How would I make it better? What other elements could I bring in?
Very nice.
Yeah, whenever we did that exercise, we put it on this board, and we just taped it to the board. And so we could take them off and move them. And so after we played through it, there was like a small period of reflection where we were like, oh, let's move it here, let's do it this. And we also did end up recording it, and then we presented that at our final concert thing. And we also, the part of the same project is that was one big one, and we also had all of them make a small individual one to try and get, that was the first exercise we did to try and get the idea sparking of what can you do with a graphic score? What are different ways to think? And then we brought it to a big group thing. But yeah.
Very nice. Yeah, Veronica.
I wanted to tell you all about something that I'm currently doing with my students, and I don't do it a lot. So maybe you all have like tips for how to manage the kind of boundless idea generation that sometimes the kids get into. So this all started because I had a 9-year-old student in a piano lesson who was just like really shut down. I was like, all right, got to get this kid to wake up. I was like, let's improvise something. What do you want to improvise? Can you come up with a story? And she's just like totally quiet. And she's like, I want to do a story about the cat Grinch. And because I have this like green crochet cat that comes to class sometimes. She's like, I want to do the cat Grinch. And I'm like, okay, tell me more. And she's like, well, we're gonna like tell the whole story, but it's the cat Grinch. And then like all my friends in our Rhythmic Solfege 3 class are gonna do this, and other people, I'm like, oh, okay, we're not doing a solo piano piece anymore. I guess we're doing something with our class. And so I was like, Maddie, we can do that, but I will go crazy if I don't have a script. Can you write a script? And this child came back the next week with a whole page-long script of like actions of what happens in the whole story. And here I am, the adult, being like, oh my gosh, it's an hour-long movie. And like she boiled it down to the essentials of like 20 steps of telling the story of the Grinch. And so this class, they're all excited to work on it, but like we have one idea, and then everyone else has 5 more ideas building off of that. And then they all want to like imagine this really complicated thing with props and lights and sound effects and all this stuff. And I'm like, all right, but we have 3 classes and then we're performing this because their recital's coming up. And they're like, okay. And then there's just like more ideas. I finally get them to like come up with one thing where we're improvising an A harmonic minor, and that's our spooky music. And we have some windy music. So they improvise that. And then they start working on like telling the story with the props and the puppets, and we get through like maybe a third of it. I'm like, okay, well, next class we'll get through the rest of it. And then like half the kids are sick, and the other ones are like just keep generating ideas for more props. I'm like, okay, let's make the props in class today, even though I didn't want to do that. So we made the props, but then like I'm like, okay, go make the props at home this week. And then half the props came back, and in the middle of our last rehearsal, they're still like, we're going to have this and we're going to add this. I'm like, you guys cannot add any more. Like, this is our last rehearsal. They're like, can you find another person, Miss Veronica, to do a second flashlight to turn the lights on and off in the like building we made? I'm like, ah. So I found like my role, like I was like more open at first, and now I'm just like, nope, that's out. Like, simplify. We got to perform this. And it's like so much. I mean, it is like way less rehearsed than I was hoping, but like they'll be fine. They know how to get through it and they'll improvise. But I'm just like wondering if you all have thoughts on how to manage the timeline of it, because I don't do this often. The kids haven't done it, so they're like figuring it out. I'm sure they're learning from me that kind of like, all right, done. it is what it is. No more ideas, but yeah, just curious if anyone has thoughts on that.
What do y'all think? Go ahead, Sarah.
Um, I think that, and I have a coworker, and she's like, she does a lot of like drama work like this too. And I think one of the really, one thing that she does often is like, it's just okay at the end of the class, it's like, let's perform what we have, right? Or just like record, make like a little recording. If it's like, I don't know if you're allowed on your phone or whatever, right? But say, let's just see what we've got from here to here and make them very aware of the timeline. It's like right now we've got this class and then this class, and then we're performing. So let's just plan out according to our timeline and like set mini goals. And then so at the end of each class, you just say, okay, 2 minutes, let's just see what we've got. And then you show it to them. What do you think? And maybe that can keep them focused.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's great. Let me write that
Any,
down.
any way you can structure it, I would just say, if you want to say, all right, who in the class wants to be in charge of props? Okay, one person is in charge, and then you could say to okay, I want you to choose what are the two most important props. You can only have two props. Choose them, choose them by next week, and come and explain why defend your choices, and you can do that compartmentalize. The other thing I would just say is you have to deal with the nature of performance, and if this is their expectation about performances, they always see it like a movie, like these fantastic effects like they've seen, but you have to explain we're really about the process. So as much of it as you can leave open and exposed, which it sounds like you're doing, to the parents, and explain to the kids this is not about coming up with everything perfect from your head, but about showing them the process, structure and process.
Very nice.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Like what they imagine, right? That they have
And
this
I say a
vivid
lot,
vision of what it could be.
and I think you can give some feedback without shooting them down by just saying, that's great. I've seen that in plays too. We don't have the time to do that. What can we do that would give that same effect? Or, you're thinking like a movie. You're thinking like a Broadway play. Let's think about a classroom. What have we got here? What can we do? What are kids good at? You don't want to shoot them down, but I've done many classes like this where they're going to eat up all the time coming up with new ideas. So it's also possible to say, okay, as of 3:30 today, all the ideas are over and we're just going to practice, and I get that. But you don't want to do that too soon, because then it's all about the performance, which is, I don't think, what you want.
And the other thing that's occurring to me in kind of all of these situations is, as I've gotten into some of this space, is just pointing out, especially to newer students, how special what they're doing is. It's the kind of instinct that seems to a lot of adulthood get squashed. It's like we take less risks the older we get. We're invited to share our wacky ideas less and less and less. We're more self-conscious. And so anytime I can catch my students involved in some kind of pure creativity, I'm always looking for the opportunity to point out to them how cool that is. So Veronica, as I'm just hearing all the amazing, ideas that are popping up, that's also like really impressive. It's like so impressive. If there was a recital where the parents are there, it's a good story to tell. Like even just you didn't get to see everything, but you embody how creative your kids are, so that the kids could hear it, that the parents can hear it, and we realize, oh yeah, just as Sean's saying, this is part of a process. Sky, I saw your hand up.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that's amazing that you just gave this one student an opening, and then suddenly sounds like she totally lit up from her, I don't know, almost tween, like,
Oh, it's like hardcore preteen. It's only
like,
9.
everything's like she's
Yeah.
suddenly, lit up with this like vision of Cat Grinch, and then it turned into this whole thing. Like that's pretty. Anyway, that was really amazing. And also, if you're doing a summer camp, like I was thinking, summer camp. This is a great summer camp project because then you've got 5 days in a row or 4 days or an hour of. If you're doing a summer camp, this could be one of the classes, and you could just play with that for 3 or 4 days. and then they'd have time to, in a row, just kind of like decide and make their ideas, but then there is a deadline, like, okay, well, we have to
That's
have it by
awesome.
Thursday because it's on Friday or whatever. Anyway,
But then you can have
yeah,
like
but
your prop time, which is your craft time. And yeah, that's
I
true.
mean, yeah, you can make it as, you can put all of those details or not, of course, but I just thought, ooh, that would be, then you'd put a cap on it and you're done, but it's also like awesome.
Yeah, great point. Thank you.
So I would have to believe that all good teaching or any good music teacher attitude would eventually find their way to all of the answers that we've shared tonight. There's nothing here that is owned by Jacques Dalcroze or, is specifically, a Dalcrozian, property. But what is very much a consistent ideal in all Dalcroze interactions is this idea of validating the risk or validating the creativity. And so it's like kind of built into the pedagogy. And we try to take just a little bit of time when we can in these meetups, because we know we have people coming, not just people in the room here who come from different levels of experience with Dalcroze ideals, but we also know people will watch this video. So just for anybody who comes in, it might seem exceptional in some traditions to first of all let people be creative at all, and then and to ask for their input. But it's actually really standard for us to say who's got an idea, who's got a thing, who's got a move, who's got a song, who's got a tune, who's got a gesture, who has an opinion, and then look for a way to use that as the thing we build on to build out our class. So what Veronica's recognizing here is deeply Dalcrozian when she said, I saw that there was a thing. We're going to try to figure out a way to pull something out. And then as soon as the student offered, even though it turns now into like Veronica's whole life is upside down because she has to corral all these things, it's actually really, really consistent with the kinds of attention we try to build into our interactions. We've still got a good 10 minutes. Quan Ting.
Thank you for all your great ideas, and I really feel inspired. And I mean, because I'm teaching a class, so I'm just curious about more about procedures. Like, for Sean, how does that work when you have the students say the word, or how big is your class, and how does that work? I just having a bit hard time to do.
One thing, how big is your average class right now?
22 to 30.
Great.
And also, I have other question for Liam. I would like to know more about his project and then his like instrument, I guess. And I want to know how like the graphic work, or if you have time to share some of the video, that would be great. I'm just very inspired now.
Let me give you a quick answer of mine, and then Liam can do it. For a class of 22 to 30, that's really too large for everybody to get a chance to really participate in the writing of a song the way I did. So I would probably split that class up into 3 or 4 groups. Now, I don't know what your age group is, but in order that they can really feel that they're all participating, you can do that project with your 22. I would say you could do it once and quickly get ideas from a lot of the kids. But if you take the time to get 22 different ideas on everything, it's just going to take too much time. But if you say, we're going to write songs about winter, I'm dividing you up into 4 groups of 5. Go and write all the things down about winter and come up with your most catchy little slogan, and then we'll come back and share. Then everybody participates. Then you can make it into a multi-week project. Next week, remember those words you came up with? All right, now you're going to go with xylophone, and you're going to come up with a tune for that. But you want to make it so that each child has a meaningful contribution. My take is if you do it with 22 kids, you're going to get 3 or 4 who love shouting out answers and do it the whole time, and everyone else just is going to sit there and get bored.
I'm also curious about how we facilitate that, because I have to bring their attention back, and then they work on their own, and they have to.
I don't know what kind of school you're going to, but they're actually doing this a lot in schools. I would start that at the beginning of the year, and I would build that skill. It's the same as we do in Dalcroze. If you go off and work with a little group, build that skill. If they don't have it, the skill to go off and focus with them, then spend those first weeks of your class building it. Do a very simple little thing that the four of them have to come up with. You have 1 minute, just like we did at the beginning of this. We had 2 minutes. You have to say what your name is, where you taught, build that skill, because if they can then go off and work and then come back and share, you have a lot more. You could do a lot more with a class of 22 to 30. Otherwise, the only model is teacher shouting at everybody and every doing what the teacher says.
Sean is nailing it on the head there with the we've mentioned this in meetups in the past. The classroom management, of course, is a major thing. It's huge. It's critical for all of us. But Sean's description there is what I think we've in the past sort of said. You have to rehearse your routines. And so so if there is no routine for doing small group work and then being able to report back, you can do that, but you would do it very small at the beginning. So you have 20 seconds. And, in my classroom, and Kwanting knows this, we say, who's your neighbor? So we were somehow all not in a chair. We're standing in place probably. And then we say, who's your neighbor? And everybody turns and looks at the person beside them. And then you have to admit, oh, I guess you're my neighbor. And so we're just right away trying to practice finding a partner. And I didn't say, go find your best friend. I said, who's your neighbor? Who is beside you? And so then I turn and I guess, oh, I guess you're beside me. Whether I was going to choose you or not, you just are. And then I give them the smallest interaction. And then you did it. And now we're all looking back at me. And so wonderful. Maybe then I find a little way to mix people up again. We take 5 steps somewhere. And maybe because we're practicing the skill, now who's your neighbor? Who's your next neighbor? And as soon as my students realize they're not going to be stuck with one partner for the next 14 years, but they're actually in any random class, sometimes they might get 5 or 6 partners. Then it's much easier for them to interact, like to just, okay, I'll be your partner. It's only going to last for 15 seconds, rather than I must work with my best friend and only them. And so when I can sort of get that, again, it's part of the routine of the class that we've rehearsed. I say, who's your neighbor? And then sometimes we've got a partner. Great, we've got a partners. Now you two, find the group beside you. Or I'll go around and grab 2 people who are partnered and shove them together with the next part. Now you're a group of 4. And I'll say, now you're a group of 4. Now you're a group of 4. Now you're a group of 4. And again, something small. And then it's always the reflect back is the classroom management part. And they have to be really short at the beginning. 10 seconds, 4 seconds, 20 seconds, as they're slowly starting to see, oh, I get it. It's you and then me, and then it's you and then me. Those are my sort of first thoughts. Just trying to give different words to the same thing I thought Sean was describing. What do we got? 8 minutes. I think Liam prompted
instruments.
Yeah. So the Singing Tennis Ball project was what I've been doing in school since last summer. Every single semester I build a new instrument because I enjoy it, and I'm an electronic music major, and so it's one of the paths I can go. And so the whole idea behind the Singing Tennis Ball is there was this one lesson that was taught to me where you had to focus on a tennis ball and then move it with like such intent, and that it was like it's the most important tennis ball, and you have to move it as though you're thinking about it a whole lot. And I wanted a way to make that into an actual sound, and so that spread out the idea of that. And so I have 4 of them. I have one that is this big, so the size of a real tennis ball, and then I have one that's just like absolutely massive and weighs like 20 pounds. And so
what's inside them?
Inside of them is there is a little electronic thing that there's a little gyroscope, and there's this little electronic thing that can just track how I'm moving it. So I go like this, it goes, oh, you move to the left. I go like this and move to the right. And I'm mostly just checking, is it moving? Is it not moving? And so if it's moving, then it will play sound. And based on its rotation, it will choose a pitch. It's a little bit hard to actually make like a coherent melody out of it if you wanted to do that, because there are so many different rotations and it's really hard to get exact ones. But the whole point is mostly that you don't have a whole lot of control, which is why it was really good for the creative expression class. You had to just kind of go with it, and you're mostly working with just on and off. this sound, that sound, more timbre like things. And so that's just what I went to college for the last semester was building singing tennis balls. And so, and I linked my website in the chat that explains more about it. There's a video of me explaining it and a bunch of diagrams and better words than I said right there. But that's the
you.
whole big gist behind the singing tennis balls.
And I'm collecting all the links for anyone who's listening afterwards, and they'll be in the newsletter. So check the newsletter for the From Our Colleagues section. We'll have the links.
Mhm.
What else? Thoughts?
5
Comments?
minutes. Other questions? All of Liam's students are they're in a program called the Carnegie Mellon Preparatory School, and they begin at around age 5, 6 by doing group piano lessons. Then they take a 45-minute eurythmics class, and then they take a half-hour one-on-one lesson, piano lesson. And they do that for about 2.5 years. And then they lose the group lesson, but they keep the eurythmics class. And then they get a longer one-on-one lesson, and then they start taking different levels of theory. And so the place for this creative expression class is sort of in the ecosystem of those other things, where they're sort of doing traditional piano work in group and in one-on-one, and they're getting a rather pretty standard and honestly pretty excellent eurythmics experience on Saturdays, where which all of that is a little bit more under the kind of traditional headings, and then they've got this sort of creativity stretching, kind of playful space, which is really kind of fun that the school figured out a way to include that in what's going on. Sarah, I saw a hand.
Yeah, can you just say the name of that school again? I need to look up this model because there's nothing like that here.
We'll put the link in the chat.
Thank you.
I'll do that but someone else is going to have to say something for 3 minutes while I look up that link. Who's got a question or a comment of something you heard today, or things you're thinking about, or we think about next steps or other versions?
Can I just ask Sean about the melody? So how did you get them into from rhythm, and then how did you I don't know, inspire them to get create their melody, or I guess pitches?
So we start with rhythm. So exactly, and then what kind of rhythm does that imply? And I just find out what it implies to them. The melodies that Sarah and Maria improvised weren't what I was thinking necessarily, but their response to, it's slipping and sliding or slipping and sliding, whatever they think. I then try to take what I hear, and that's why I ask a few people to sing the same thing, so that eventually we get, what are we hearing as a group? We're hearing that it goes up and then it goes down, or we just sort of articulate what we hear. Don't be afraid to put yourself in the process. That's what I would say. Don't feel like that the only way for the kids to be creative is that they completely have no guidance from you. That's not true. In fact, I think kids tend to be more creative if you focus the choices for them. If they have limited choices, they really can, they're free to answer those choices. So if you say, let's do this in E flat, we're studying the key of E flat, is that in the key of E flat? And here's the key, the chord or whatever. You can structure it and then just pick out what sounds good to you. If you get someone who really feels, no, that's not what I said, then great, they'll defend their opinion, they'll sing something else. If not, we all sort of go along with your idea until we're ready for something else. I'd also start really small. A song can be 4 phrases and they can repeat. The first, most songs, think about row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Life is but a dream. Very simple song. That's the kind of thing you want to write at first.
Love it. Sean, I'm so happy that you joined us tonight. It's wonderful to see you. Liam, thank you so much for sharing. Claire, thanks for letting me put you on the spot. And I think we're going to have you back at some point to do a proper tell us about the Lullaby Project. It's so exciting. and so rich. Every bit of it that I know is really fascinating. And everybody else, thank you. Thanks for coming. The VDM, we try really hard to start on time and end on time. We got things to do, and we also want to leave you wanting more. So please consider signing up for the Anne Gabrielle Chateau masterclass. Every single one of these master classes has been worth the time. These are master teachers. They're outstanding. They take time to prepare. And the more faces we can get in the live stream, it just makes it even nicer for everyone. You, of course, can register just to watch the recording. If you can't make the exact time that she's teaching live, please register anyway, and you'll get a link and you'll have access to live or not. You get access to the recording for 30 or 60 days after it happens. So you can take notes and watch things twice and all of that. And then subscribe to the calendar. Veronica?
I just wanted to tell you all that my elementary school music teacher wrote every year with the 6th grade class a 12-bar blues, and we created all the words for it. So my year was about how kids have no power and all the grown-ups are telling us what to do. And we were like, we got the bottom of the food chain blues. That was our refrain. So I was thinking about her a lot.
That's a great example, by the way, of working within a structure. Blues is a perfect way to start songwriting because it's very structured. You already have the structure. Now you can be creative.
Yeah.
So good. All right, everyone. Mark your calendars. There's all kinds of stuff coming up. Subscribe to the newsletter, and we'll see you at the VDM in the future. Thank you.
See you soon.
Thanks, Veronica.
Thank you. Did you stop the recording?
I haven't. I should do that.
I think I stopped mine.
Now I'm gonna have to go back and edit it. Darn it.